how are you supposed to know that it's not the full sound range, or it feels like a subwoofer, and you say, great, I'm feeling sound.
Yeah.
But sound is a full spectrum. Sound has a lot more information. Sound has more nuance. The human spectra of sound that we've adopted as a species from 20 to 20,000 hertz is a full range sound spectrum.
All right, Dr. Castro. So today we finally get to talk about what we've been working on here at Edge Sound Research. Because up to this point, we talked a lot about all the different tactile solutions that are out there. We talked about the difference between audible and tactile and haptic information. But I really want to focus in on specifically around the world of tactile audio and solutions out there. Subpack, Woozr, all these companies have promised that you can feel and understand sound information. But I think the big question that we've had here is, what is the maximum range that we can actually understand the feeling of sound, not as just like an effect, but actually the translation of audio information? Do you have an answer to that?
Yes, and if it wasn't for the whole gosh darn PhD process, I would not. But because I went through that process, I asked the same question at the beginning of the process, as my own background of being a musician and having to rely on my sense of touch and having to rely on that for tuning and for timbral information, which usually is in the higher range of the frequency spectrum. I certainly knew from my own experience that there was more frequency information that can be gleaned from tactile than what was previously reported.
Yep.
So, but however, that's not a usual case, right? Usually people still have good ears, and if they go into researching music, they typically have a good set of hearing. And I was one unique situation where I didn't have a good set of hearing, but I still wanted to research music. Go figure. And that meant that a lot of literature that exists from people who went this far to be educated don't really have that intuitive connection to it that me and other hard of hearing people who might have a harder time in this type of field would experience. And in that case, musicians that are hard of hearing kind of know this intuitively, but don't necessarily get to write about it.
Yep.
Just like the people who are writing about it don't get that as intuitively.
Experience,
Yeah. So when when I started my research, there are a few different companies that were claiming to allow somebody to feel sound. And I was so excited because I said, yes, there's got to be a way, there's got to be some solution out there to allow someone to have this really involved sense of sound. And they were transducer companies, and then they were these consumer companies, like you mentioned, Subpack, Woozr, even at the time, Low Felt was around, and then which had a little baselet, which is pretty cool.
Buttkicker.
And then the other side, the transducer companies, Buttkicker, Earthquake Sound, Dayton Audio has one that's a version of Aura Sound, as well as a little puck that they sell here in North America. And so all of these companies are all describe it as feeling sound. So if it's their first time, you say, great, I can't wait to feel sound. I can't wait to see what that experience is like.
Yep.
And then you try one of these transducers, or you try these like kind of bass focused companies, and you say, great, this is super cool because you turn it on, you can feel it in your body, and you say, great, this is what feeling sound is. How are you supposed to know that it's not the full sound range, or it feels like a subwoofer, and you say, great, I'm feeling sound.
Yeah.
But sound is a full spectrum. Sound has a lot more information. Sound has more nuance. The human spectra of sound that we've adopted as a species from 20 to 20,000 hertz is a full range sound spectrum. And that doesn't stop just because you're not engaging your ears.
Yep.
Your body's designed, the human body is designed and attuned to be able to feel, yes, infrasonic and low frequencies very well. That's our defense mechanism to be able to get out of harm's way, for sure. But there's the details and nuance. Part of our texture mapping and part of how the mechanoreceptors in your skin and in your muscles also function to be able to tell you other information about more details. So if there's a change in the wind, if there's a little bit of a pressure, if there's something wrong with the water or something like that, there's other parts of it to help you enhance higher frequency information. And that is so cool that it's ingrained into it, and I've used that, and other hard of hearing people have used that for generations to be able to access or at least feel somebody when they're talking and be closer to parts of music. In fact, even people that don't have issues hearing also use that.
Yep.
They just have their hearing that kind of is the main form of how they access it. So the research currently, as it stands, before my dissertation came out, has posited At the extreme levels, about 2,000 hertz as the point where people can feel with their fingertips or certain parts of their body. And that's a huge jump from 200 hertz, which if you're thinking the frequency spectrum, from 0 to 200, it's like a subwoofer. So only what comes out of a subwoofer, that's that kind of frequency range. And when you go above 200 hertz to about 500, that's where the fundamental frequency of your voice. If you say, ooh, that main note is your fundamental, and then the reason why it sounds like my voice is all those harmonics that live on top of it. And those harmonics go into 800, 1,000, 1,700, 2,000 hertz. So you can still get the whole range of somebody and know that it's somebody and not somebody else if you have that expanded range. And that was the previous literature. I thought that there might be some more on top of it, and through some of our own testing, we were able to see that we can observe some experiments up to about 5,000 hertz. We have to still do some more testing of this, have other people verify it, but I believe that's where the current theoretical limit is, that is also contributed by other people talking about how the mechanical receptors in the fingertips work.
So just based on that, right, and I think a question we get sometimes, cool, you can feel that low frequency subwoofer experience, right, through tactile information. What is the benefit of being able to go up to this 5,000, right? Like, what is the benefit of these mid and high range tactile informations to new experiences and what's possible?
It's that detail, that detail of telling one thing from another thing, right? Because there's no difference between an elephant trunk, thunder, and a car engine if you're only getting a super low note about it. It's just going to shake back and forth. It's always going to shake. But you can tell that it's an elephant versus a thunder versus a car engine because you have these harmonics on top of it, and that information is what tells you what one thing is and what one thing isn't. And that's the important part.
Got it. So the focus of embodied sound and what we're focusing our research on is how to maximize the amount of audio information that a human can perceive.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to jump a little bit further into embodied sound then.
Yeah.